Coming up on the next episode.
Alright, what you're looking at over there is the voltage into the radio at the kilowatt. You can see it's 126.2, which is rather high. Now this is the output from the isolation transformer. This is not the line voltage. Sometimes these isolation transformers do amplify, I won't say amplify, but they alter the voltage just a bit higher sometimes, depending on the windings in the transformer. But I think that's probably a little bit high for what my line voltage actually is. I may go ahead and do a check, and I don't have, yeah, because I could put it down there. May do a check and see what the difference is between the line voltage and that. If we look over here at the fluke, you can see it is that's the main B plus 127.5. That's way too high. So that's the reason for that, I think, is because of that high line voltage or input voltage, whatever you want to call it. So what I'm going to do, like I say, is I'm going to just plug it in temporarily here at the on the line and see what the difference is. So there's that unplugged, and we'll plug it back in here. That did not work. That obviously was a short. Must have blew the breaker. I don't know why. I've never had that happen ever. So I've got to find out now what that problem is and go from there. So let me investigate and see what it is. Hi, I'm back. I'm back again. I had a little problem with the electric here. I think what it was, I had the HP signal generator hooked up to the ground of this radio, and I think that might have caused a problem. Although I was using, when I was using the isolation transformer, it worked fine. But then when I plugged it into the house outlet, it kicked the breaker. So it's an arc fault breaker. I think that's probably why it did that. Anyway, we are past that now and got everything recovered mostly. So as you can see, looking over the top of the thing there, the kilowatt says the electricity out of the house is around 116, 117, somewhere around in there. And if you look at the corresponding B plus now, the main B plus, it's at 118, 119. So that's much less than it was with the isolation transformer. So I'm assuming that's part of most of the reason, I should say, that the B plus was so high on this radio. I mean, 9 volts it's supposed to be 110, but 9 volts is not that much difference, whereas 20 volts is probably quite a bit of difference. So, well, 13 or whatever it was, the difference. But like I said, it's not bad. So I'll go with that. So I'm assuming that's the main difference in the why this does what it does. As you can hear, there's still no radio action though, and so that probably is not the cause of that. So we have another problem somewhere else, and so that's what we're going to be trying to find is the cause of that. And right now my server is down, my server drive that's got my schematics and things like that on it, so I've got to figure that out and get that fixed, because it went down with this whole room is on that arc breaker, and so when it went down, the whole room went down, my internet was gone, everything was gone. So I have to get this all set back up again. The drive that I use for the computer I use for the server is at old HP, and it doesn't restart. It's supposed to restart. I told it to restart after a power failure, but it doesn't do it. So I've got to go over and restart that and get that done. So In the meantime, I think what we're going to do is basically just assume that the power is probably okay. It's a little high, but at the same time, I don't even know exactly what these sets were made to do. I would think by the late 40s, early or mid 40s, I should say, maybe they were able to handle 115 at least. So that 116 is not that much difference. So anyway, so like I said, we'll do some more investigation and we'll come back and see what I can find out. Oh well, welcome back to the bench, everyone. Here again on this RCA radio. You may be able to see various wires sticking out, things like that. That is R5. That isolates the AVC from the rest of the radio. AVC voltage is derived from the high side of the volume control and the second IF transformer. And so what I've done is basically pulled that loose, and I'm trying to isolate the higher minus negative voltage to other parts of the radio, because I want to make sure where it's not coming from or is coming from or whatever. This is the other pin that this is the 220K resistor R2. This is the little mica cap C2. And they went to pin 4, I believe. Let's see. Make sure I'm right on pin 8. Pin 8 of this tube here, the 12SA7. That isolates it. Basically what I'm saying is I'll put up a diagram showing you where I put cuts, and everywhere there are red X, that's where I cut the leads. So what you can see from that is basically I have isolated the larger minus voltage from the tubes themselves. In other words, on measuring with everything disconnected from the tube itself only measured, I think, 1.25 on the negative side on the grids of each of those tubes. So the actual voltage itself, the larger minus voltage, is not coming from the tube, and it is not coming from the AVC. So what we have found out, though, that is it is over on, if we look a little further over to the left, we can see pins 1 or terminal 1 and 4 of the antenna, which is the secondary of that antenna coil. Both places measure minus 10.5 DC. So that is where our problem is coming from. It's not, again, it's not the AVC, it's not the tubes, it's not those are not producing that negative voltage. Or, I mean, they have a negative voltage on a grid. That's a natural negative voltage there. That's the way it's supposed to be. But anyway, the actual bad part of that is, like I said, you can see those lines go down towards the switches, range switch, I should say. And that's either it's coming from there or somewhere else. Now, what I want to do next is the line that connects to the terminal 4 wire. As you can see, that's the wire that goes over to this R5, and I want to isolate that from that. That will allow us to make sure that the big voltage is on the antenna coil, is still on the antenna coil, and if it is, then that means that clears everything past that, and then we're off to the races down below at the range switches. So that's what we got to do. We got to find that wire and cut it and isolate it, and that way we can tell whether or not the minus 10.5 is being derived from above, the source of it, or down below and the switches. So that's what we're going to do, and I'm going to look over this circuit on the radio and try to locate that wire as best I can. Like I said, it's got to be probably somewhere down in here, I'm guessing, But at some point, there's got to be a wire that, you know, you can see on the schematic. It's just a single wire that connects that point, and it's got to be here somewhere. And if I can find it, that's going to be the hard part, finding it. But that's what I'm going to do, or try to do, is find that wire. So there you go. That catches you up where we're at right now. I've had a lot of suggestions. I want to thank everyone that has given me suggestions. So, and that includes Bob and Brendan, and anybody that's made a comment. Some of you guys have made some good comments. One particular I want to point out is from Larry, Back to the Future Radios. He's the one that kind of led us over towards the antenna. He said to check the terminals on the antenna, and we did. And that's where we found that it is there, that minus 10.5 is on pins 1 and 4, or terminal 1 and 4 of that antenna coil. So that's interesting itself. So, like I said, that leads us in a whole new direction, really. And like I said, if I can find that wire that you know, commons over to the 3.3 R5, then I think we can safely disconnect it and then determine whether our voltage is being derived below or above, and that should give us a heads up on where we're headed. Now, if you look at the range switch part of the schematic, there's not a lot of voltage being derived there. Where there's nobody, you know, nowhere that I'm sure there's some wires coming down that might put voltage there. But again, you know, I don't know how to do that as far as you know, saying this one or that one is bad, you know, as far as that goes. So we're just going to have to go down and check and see. But it is obviously coming from somewhere, and it is not the way we thought it was. So anywho, if any of that makes sense, I'm happy. But like I said, that's where we're at and what I'm trying to do. So let me get back to it and get in here and look at this really close and see if I can't find that wire and disconnect it. Good day, YouTube. Here with you once again at the bench. Back on the RCA 66X1 radio. This is probably my final segment on this, because for one thing, this there's more wrong with this radio than I think. I'm not saying that I couldn't fix, but there's things wrong with it that are just almost impossible to get to, I guess is what I'm saying. I think where I'm at here, I'm going to pop up a picture onto the video here and show you all the places you see with the red X have been cut. They have been cut from, you know, to divide the circuit. This is all in order to find this minus voltage that was on the grids of the tubes and where the ABC should be. That was not the ABC voltage. I can tell you that because you can see the first thing I cut was R5 out of the circuit there, that red X. That effectively removed the ABC from, you know, getting over to where we were at. The voltage was still there. Okay, every cut that I made, except for one, you know, left that voltage there. And so the one that I made that it changed with was the one on pin 6 of the 12SA7. Now, when I made that cut, everything changed. The minus voltage went away, and it turned into a plus 85 volts. So that's quite a difference. Obviously, that has to be a B plus something, because that's the only thing that gets up that high. If you look at the voltage at the filter caps, one of them on one line you got 110 volts and the other 76. Now All of this has been done with the variac set right at, I'm going to say, because of the line voltage variations, 114 to 116. So it basically is full voltage. And like I said, when we went from the minus 10, 12, whatever it was, to this plus 85. So, like I said, where we're at here is this mess down here. I'm gonna get the other camera out and show you a little closer view with some light on it, and I'm going to show you where I think the trouble spot is. Now, before I even do that, I'm going to show you these wires, these white wires. Let me get you down here. Well, I'll just show you up here. These white wires here are very brittle. They're rubber wires, and we all know what happens with the rubber wires from these old radios after this amount of time. They basically turn to powder when you touch them or anything like that. Now, there's a couple in there still good, but, you know, the majority of it is just, you know, it's no good. I'll give you one example down here, if I can, without messing up too bad. This wire here that is loose, that is the one for pin 6, I believe, of the 12 SA7. I pulled on it just a little bit, and the insulation broke right off, and it's going to have to be replaced, number one. But let me get the other camera out so I can show you what I'm talking about. Alright, we're back again. This is, pardon the flickering light, but that light of mine needs some work done on it. I don't know exactly what it is. But, what I'm talking about is this switch. These white wires here that you see, a lot of them are brittle, and it's really difficult to see underneath in here, but there is a place that they kind of wrap around each other, and I think what has happened is one of them's broke the insulation and is shorting to another one, and I think that's most of the problem. But for now, what I think I'm going to do is anyway, what I think I'm going to do is put this radio aside. This is too big of a job for what I wanted to do on this project. I thought this was going to be one of them radios where I could replace the caps and, you know, basically have a working radio, but obviously that's not going to happen. So I didn't really want to get involved in a project that was this deep. And like I said, I've got another radio sitting underneath the bench now that I wanted to be doing by now, and that's what I'm going to do. The switch itself, I don't know how well you can see it, but the contacts are nice and clean on it. There's no gunk on it or anything like that, so there's not really a problem there. This wire here is one that's I cut. Now, all of these wires, a lot of these wires, go to the base of the tuning capacitor. And that's where the 85 volts is. And if you look at the screw down here, if you can see it, that's one of the screws for the tuning capacitor, right there. And there's 85 volts on that. So I know that's not supposed to be. But, so, again, this section here is gonna be, I'm going to have to tear this all out, because whatever the problem is, the voltage is being done down here, because you can see on the schematic with the red X's, there's no place left for that voltage to come from other than the switch area. So there has to be a place where that has come across there, and like I said, it's getting into that switch, and until I can find that and fix it, I think that's pretty much where I'm going to stop this at, because like I said, there's no sense in carrying on. I keep cutting these wires, and you know, after getting rid of the negative voltage, I thought, well, now we're getting somewhere, but now I'm thinking, I don't know really where we're getting. We're not getting very far. And I told Bob I wanted to put this back like it was, because I'm, you know, getting to the point now where I forgot where everything goes. And so, and this radio, I don't know how you can see it, but the amount of bad soldering and things like that on these tube pendants and stuff like that, I don't know. It's just a mess. I mean, you know, it is not good at all. So, like I said, I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to set this aside, put it on the shelf for right now. I'm like I said, I'm not in the mood. This might be a winter project or something like that, you know, where you can get in there and tear this stuff out. And that's what's going to have to be done. This is all going to have to go, all this, and this is where all the fine tuning is done as far as the little coils and the little trimmer capacitors, things like that, are all down here, and it's just going to be a mess to do, and it's just too complicated or too complex, whatever you want to call it, for me to handle at the moment. I didn't really want to get this deep into a project, and so like I said, I think that's what I'm going to do. I hate to do it because I thought we were getting closer, you know, as I cut these different wires and we were tracking down that negative. I thought it was a negative voltage, but obviously that was a result of something else. Because as soon as I cut, well, actually, if I touch the wire here that goes to pin, that one there, if I touch that to that, it goes from 85 to basically 0, which is what it should be. But you know, that doesn't I don't understand that either, because before I cut that wire, it was -12 there. And, you know, removing the wire makes it go to 85, then putting it back should make it go back to -12, but it doesn't. So, you know, that just shows that there's more wrong with this radio that, you know, I don't know how else to explain it. That's just all I can tell you. So, like I said, this is it for the 66X1. I wanted to get this working really bad, but it's not going to happen. So, not sure. I've had help with this, and I'm going to acknowledge everybody that's helped me with this. Brendan and Bob, main ones, have been helping me, and I've even sent some of this information to Don over at Restoral Radios. And like I said, it's just, you know, nobody. It's just one of those situations where you almost have to start over, and that's what I told Bob. I said, you know, and he said that's just almost impossible to radio like this, because you have to do one wire at a time because of the placement of the wires and the you know, lay of the situation, and it have to be lead dress, I guess is what I'm saying. But you know, all this it's just a mess. So, and it's all right in this area right here. So, and I know I'm not even down there when I'm showing you that. All in this area right here. That's what I'm saying. All that up there is audio and all on top, and we know that works now, so we got that fixed. So this radio obviously had a lot more wrong with it than was previously thought, and as such, I just don't have time to do it right now. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to set it aside, put my I'll leave my notes, you know, on it to where I can pick right back up on it and go from there. But for right now, that's it. You guys have a great day. Thank you very, very much for watching, and we will see ya.